them and try to answer all your questions. And then real quick before we get into that, let's talk about like post convention. Like,
Yeah.
how many of you guys like send emails, and when do you send these post convention emails?
I don't send a whole ton of emails. Most of the time, the people I'm following up with more than anything are like other broadcasters that I want to make sure that like, hey, I met you. Like this is how I started playing D&D, honestly.
Oh yeah.
I met Adam at PAX East 3 years ago, 3 years ago, and followed like he followed up, and then I invited him to my comic book show, and then he invited me to play D&D. So having that follow up with the actual people that you're like, I met you, I want to continue this relationship. And that can be super valuable, of course, with businesses as well, but it's almost better to follow up with them when you actually have something that you want to do together.
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to, like, hey, Ubisoft, I had a really fun time meeting you. In 4 months, when you come out with that new game, I want to play it. Like, they're gonna forget.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
but broadcasters, like a lot of times you can do stuff all the time right away. So like after, give it a couple days or a week because everyone's cooling down, maybe people are sick, pay attention to their Twitter feed, like, oh god, I'm dying, like maybe don't send the message then, you know. But yeah, no, I definitely think that
It's
like
true.
following up with people has given me some really rewarding relationships. Being the person that reaches out, because everyone everyone on the internet gets distracted and like is like it's really easy to lose touch with people. So if you want to have those relationships, you have to be the person that reaches out. And I've
And
had trouble with this and I'm working on it myself.
you are
Hmm.
one of the few
Um
people who has control over how that is managed, right? Because you cannot dictate whether or not the other person is going to respond to you,
Yeah.
whether or not they are going to reach out to you, whether or not they are going to, tweet at you on Twitter when you maybe forgot to follow them, and they're going to go, "Hey, it was great meeting you." And then in that moment, you have the opportunity to go, "Oh, follow. Oh, that's right. I remember hanging out with you last night. That was fantastic."
let's
You don't
do
necessarily have that
something.
control on their side. You have it on yours. So I would say definitely, take the opportunity as soon as you can, and that can depend on you. Like I have a very fickle and fragile memory, so I kind of need to do that stuff relatively quickly, fairly soon after.
Well, and also have something actionable, because
Yeah,
like just saying like it was fun hanging out with you, that's like, okay, yeah, it was fun hanging out with you too, like done, like that's the end of your
Yeah.
conversation. But if you're like, hey, like we hung out, you mentioned how much you like Overwatch, I was thinking of playing Overwatch next week, do you want to do a multi-stream? Boom, like
yeah,
you're doing something.
yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that, it could be offline, it could be like, I'm planning another one shot, like my last one shot got these kind of numbers, is this something that you think would be good for your brand?
Yeah.
So like, and that's even with other streamers, like that's not even saying like businesses. Like let's say you reach out to an indie person, indie developers are great because a lot of the times like I've been able to get builds of a game like way before release. And so that can be really fun to be able to be like, hey, I played the first like 30-minute demo of Battle Chef Brigade at PAX East. Would that be something that I could play on stream? um, Show my viewers like what I saw at the convention, do a little recap. Like, is that something that I could do? And yeah, they just sent me the build that they had at the convention, and I played it on stream, and that was great.
Also, like,
Um,
oh, go ahead.
no, that's go like that's
I was gonna
right.
say like a little add on to when you're sending these emails and you have like a plan of action, include like a little tidbit of like your conversation or like where you met them. You know,
Yeah.
something that like can remind them of what your interaction was like. That helps so much.
That's a great
Um,
idea.
like so honestly, like what I sometimes do is like if I interact with somebody and I know I'm gonna contact them, I'll either write on their business card or on my phone. I'll be like, you know, like something that we talked about, or like, you know, something to remember this conversation so that I can, yeah, talk to them later about that. Like a fact about that person. So I'm like, I'm not just looking at this name and I don't remember anything about them, but I'm like,
Yeah.
If you have nothing to tie it into, and especially I'm horrible with names, tying
yeah,
it into I mean, like our memories are very they can be full of any number of things. And remembering experience usually does not directly involve the name. That's like something that's like almost like a hashtag that helps you categorize it. But all the other aspects of the memory, those are natural elements that help you draw back to the moment and actually remember the individual. It's very valuable.
Ellohime,
So
I would love to hear your input on this because like you've had like very different experiences from the rest of us. Do you have any other inputs on like post show stuff?
I mean, it's how am I gonna say this without coming across as like a complete douchebag? It's a little bit different now. It's a little bit different now for me because my management handles all of that.
Yeah.
Like I said, at a certain point, management is going to be what you want because management is going to handle all these things for you. So post for me is keeping up with email change that are being created on my behalf, which makes me sound like an asshole, but that's
I don't think that sounds like arrogance at all.
You just have a different experience than us.
I know it just makes you feel like my management handles this, like
Ellohime,
trailer, like that kind of thing.
Be proud of your accomplishments.
Okay? I am. I'm also wary of perception, so
sure.
So but like early on, what I would do was I would definitely give people space to get home and to get settled back in. If I'm getting home and I want a couple days to recuperate, I'm sure they do. And it doesn't matter how excited I am. I need to realize that. So whenever I message them, I want to make sure that they've had time to get back home, relax, maybe like a week later or something like that. Maybe even to the point where they, probably forgotten about me, just a little, hey, I'm still here. Again, Twitter for me is the best way to keep up with people. I leave my DMs open. Like that's how much I use Twitter. Twitter is just like my biggest business card, my biggest way to communicate with people, all that stuff. So if there's something particularly, time sensitive that's coming right after convention, like there's a game release or something like that, I'll hit them up on Twitter and I'll just say, hey, like you said earlier, I met you, we had a quick conversation, I was just wondering if there's a review copy because I'm very interested in streaming your game, and they'll respond or they won't, and you'll just kind of leave it at that. But the post stuff, most of the post stuff is almost 100% just, for me anyways, getting back into the swing of things, getting back healthy. My focus is almost entirely on my broadcast at that point and not on my future opportunities. My future opportunities are there and I know they're there and I've got them and I've set them up and that's cool. I'll organize them later. Let me just focus on getting back into the swing of streaming. So,
and that's again another one of the benefits of management is allowing yourself to have that divided up.
Even without management, like you were saying, Ellohime, like these people that you've given your information to are going to come looking for your content. And if you're not live after a convention,
correct.
What are they're going to find like week old VODs. And so proving to them that everything that you've said about yourself, everything that you've presented about your reliability, like that all has to be present when you get back online.
Absolutely.
And not only that, but that's an excellent point. But to go even further with that, be sure, feel free to individually invite people to your stream. You can go up there and go, hey, blah, 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 blah. I stream on Twitch. Cool. Well, so does, thousands of other people. But if you jump on your messages right before, especially before you stream their game, like let's say I'm going to stream Watch Dogs 2, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm going to tag them in my live message just so they know that I'm streaming their game. And then if there's somebody particular that I had met at a convention or anything, I might shoot them a little thing like, hey man, thank you so much for making this game. I'm going to be streaming it this morning. If you want to check it out, here's the link. If not, have a great week, or whatever. Sorry, I might have just broke up a little bit there.
Well, and that's specifically if you already have that, like you met them, let's like tag them in again. I don't think I would cold call people with that because that can be just like, okay, like I don't care, But definitely if you had a conversation at a convention, if you've already expressed interest in a relationship and then you're like, yo, like we talked about my content, I'm going live with something that you've made. Now that's a really good way to do it. But make sure that you're not just like barging into someone's DMs and being like, I'm live right now on Twitch, because
no, that's a great point. It's about understanding the rapport that you built individually with people, and a lot of this has to do with a lot of streamers I found get very successful because they really understand emotional intelligence. Like they understand that when they're talking with somebody, how to read them as being abrasive or accepting or understanding or, you know, hesitant, stuff like that. You know, just being there in the moment and understanding people, and then having a really clear understanding of the relationship you have with that person is so important for not overstepping your bounds and doing everything that, you know, you just said, you know, making things super uncomfortable by being overbearing. That's one thing I see more out of growing streamers than anything else is they want to get to know you, they want to spend time with you, they want you to view them on the same level, like as a friend, as a confidant, as all these things, but they try to do that too quickly. They're too forceful with it. You know, they're right there with their business card. They're not, you know, they're 100% agree with you. So what I would say is just chill, understand the situation, understand the kind of relationship you have again, and take it easy, take it slow. There's no reason to rush into things. And if you feel like you're being overbearing, then maybe you are. You know, and there's nothing wrong with stepping back. You know, there's nothing wrong with taking a step back.
Well, this
And
isn't
that's
your
like
only
impossible
convention,
to
right?
teach too. Yeah.
Like you're going to go to the next one and they might be at the next one too. And then the year after that. And if they're staying in the business, then, and you're going to stay in the business, then you guys are going to meet up at some point. So it's not like the only opportunity you have is this moment. And you need to, even if that were true, you want to manage that overbearance. Regardless, because you don't want to ruin that potential moment by going overboard. So one way or another, you definitely want to reel that in and try and manage the relationship in the longer term, instead of just like the first memory that you plant is this like, hey, let me give you 10 business cards in case you want to hand that out to other friends. It's like, well, maybe not.
I feel like this is also really good like dating advice too. So if you guys like want to take this that, like
wait, you guys don't hand out your business cards on dates?
I do 100% of the time.
I certainly do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not getting laid unless I'm throwing out that I'm a streamer. So, I mean, I have to get my business
I'm famous on the internet. So
I'm a celebrity. I don't know if you know this. By the way, there's another point too. I'm gonna call him out by name just because I love him to death, and it just kind of goes in. I know Lowco's wanting to get to questions, but also just the last point on that. Not every relationship you're going to build is going to happen like right away. Sometimes it takes years. Like the first time I met Brian Hicks, I love him to death now, but the first time I met him, the guy almost pretended like I wasn't even in the room. Like it just like, I thought the guy hated me. I didn't understand it. Brian Hicks was the guy that used to work on DayZ with Dean Hall. It was like my very first convention. I was an up and comer, and this guy, he didn't mean to. It's just the way that he is. He's military. He's very quiet. And I just got in my own head about this relationship. I was really bothered that this guy like it wasn't friendly with me and stuff. And it was funny because, you know, maybe like a year later, we ran into each other at another convention. He said hi. He was very amiable. And like a year after that, you know, by year 3, we had talked several times on Twitter, and, you know, things were popping up, you know, on Twitter, and like, he'll send me a message and we'll laugh together and we'll do some shit here and there, you know, and it's like weird because, the relationship I thought I was in when it first started, because of my own insecurities and my own shit, was a relationship that evolved into something totally different over time. So even if you don't feel like you're getting across to somebody right away, don't feel disheartened by that. Some people are just different than others, and some people take a while to open up to you. And with Brian Hicks especially, like we're really good friends now, and I love the guy to death. But yeah, I probably didn't think the guy liked me for probably like 2 years. So
and this like happens even with people that you do have a good rapport with, like sometimes in person, it can be totally different because there's that social anxiety thing. And like even with Adam, who is like my absolute closest friend, at conventions, he is like way more standoffish initially, like even
Just
with
a
me,
different beast.
because it's a different situation. So even if it's someone that you do know and you have a really good rapport with online, it may be different. So just like, take it easy.
And there are tons of reasons to be out of sorts at a convention too, right? You've got the schedule, like you said, social anxiety. You probably got trash sleep the night before. You may have had too many drinks. You may have not had enough food because you had a meeting in the morning. You know, there are any number of reasons.
All of the above.
And all that can stack up together.
So give people a little bit of a break if they're not quite themselves.
Just meet up with them the next day or the next year. We're going to be in this for the long haul. Prepare for that.
Mhm.
You'll
Okay.
be
Yeah.
surprised what people can remember too.
Yeah, questions. We should do questions.
Yeah. So we do have a bunch of questions for you guys.